My name is Stephanie Kaiser. I have the pleasure of working for Southfield Parks and Recreation Department, and it is my honor to welcome you all to the beautiful Carpenter Lake Nature Preserve. Today we gather to celebrate the completion of a year-long project that has added comfort and accessibility to one of Southfield's hidden gems. We've expanded the parking lot, improved the entrance and exit road for greater safety, and added a restroom facility complete with a drinking fountain. Yay! As well as this wonderful shelter that's giving us some much needed shade today. We're also thrilled to officially open the magnificent Boulder Garden just across the parking lot there, a project brought to life by the dedication and vision of attorney Marshall Lasser. The Boulder Garden is not only a serene place to explore and reflect on the wonders of nature, but it also offers endless fun for families and kids of all ages. Thanks to the informative signage and QR codes provided by the Cranbrook Institute of Science, visitors can learn more about the diverse types of rocks that are included here. Before I invite Mayor Siver to the podium, I'd like to extend a warm invitation to everyone to join us at the tent after the ceremony for refreshments. There are cold beverages. There are fans if you need them. And it's a great opportunity to mingle, enjoy some treats, and further celebrate this special occasion. Thank you again for being here today and for your continued support of our parks and community. Now, without further ado, please welcome Mayor Siver.
Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
This is a very special occasion and something we've long anticipated. So very quickly, this one, once upon a time was a dairy farm, and the farmer impounded the branch of the Rouge River with a dam that was built many, many years ago, and then the dairy farm left and other people owned the property. One time a church owned it, and anyhow, through lots of work and grants, we were able to get 30 acres. And then, and it had a long, narrow driveway to come to the back here. And then there were 10 acres up here that was a horse farm. That completed this acquisition. So then we have a dam that's failing. We have an overrun property. It was pretty much wilderness. And so through various state grants, and I don't know if she's here today, Mary Carlock. Mary worked for the city for years. She really shepherded this property. Over the years, the impoundment of the river had become silt-filled. It really wasn't a lake anymore. It was sort of a marsh. And so with the grant money, we were able to dredge and return Carpenter Lake to this property. And then, of course, we rebuilt, through grant money, rebuilt the dam. And so in 2009, we opened the Carpenter Lake. It got rave reviews right away. But there were some things that at the time we didn't have the money for, and so thankfully our state senator Jeremy Moss, who you'll be hearing from in a while, got the city a $600,000 grant. So we were able to redo the parking lot and have the lavatories and this shelter. So, but I skipped an important development here. In 2016, somebody called me and said, you ought to meet this man by the name of Marshall Lasser. And I had not met Marshall, but he came bearing gifts. And so I never turn volunteers or gifts away. And I was very intrigued. Marshall had done a rock installation in a Birmingham park, and too bad for Birmingham. They didn't want any more Marshall's rocks, apparently. The story goes something like that. anyhow, I said, well, Southfield will be glad to take them. So we did a plan, and it was going to be at Losher Woods. And it was smaller than this. And then there was neighborhood rejection of our plan. So we said, forget it. We'll take this amenity someplace else. And so behind you is what transpired, our beautiful Boulder Garden. This isn't really a hidden gem. I'm going to take issue with Stephanie's description. This park, excuse me, has become a draw. Every time I'm over here, I meet people from all over metro area. And part of it is the great trail, which I encourage all of you to take down to the lake, as well as walk through the Boulder Garden. But there are two other people that need to be recognized. Ray Rogers from Rockworks. Ray? Now, if this is absolutely an incredible feat, to bring these boulders here from Wisconsin, Upper Peninsula, Canada, and even a glacier boulder from Lake Orion. I was here when the flatbed trucks would come in, and it's amazing they even got down the road. It was incredible. And then once the site was assembled, Marshall's vision, and I'm going to call him up next, Marshall's vision was to bring different minerals here, different substances. And so we partnered with Cranbrook, and Carl Mabry is here from Cranbrook. Thank you, Carl. So this isn't just a walk in a Boulder Garden, it's also a science lesson about minerals and where the rocks come from and how they were formed. So I want to call up Marshall and officially thank Marshall. I'm gonna say what this gift was $1 million gift. Wow. It was Marshall donated this whole thing. The city did not finance this, and it's for his love of minerals and plants that we're standing here today to enjoy this Boulder Garden for many, many years to come. So Marshall, thank you very much.
Well, first I want to thank the City Council of the City of Southfield for permitting this and allowing it to go ahead. But my greatest thanks is to Ken for his vision, his persistence, his interest in the arts, his shepherding this project for many, many years. Kudos to Ken. And I want to say one thing, Ken. The hill, the big hill is now 12 feet high. It was 18 feet high, but we had to reduce it to 12, and because the neighbor objected because he was worried that people on top of the hill might spy into their backyard. But it turned out that the reduction of the hill from 18 feet to 12 was actually, I think, for the better, because it allowed a lot of material to be moved to the secondary hill. So I think it's actually artistically better the way it is now. And I want to say a few more words about Ray Rogers. Ray Rogers over here is the Boulder man extraordinaire. Any big project of moving rocks, and we're talking rocks like 10 tons and 15 tons and 25 tons and so on. This is what Ray does. He does it throughout southeast of Michigan. The new project on what's the one called on the river?
Ralph Wilson Centennial Park,
which should hopefully be open next year. That's Ray's doing. He's moving all the rocks there. And Matt Ishbia's house, which you'll never get to see, but it's across the 77,000 square foot home on across from Springdale Golf Course. That's also what Ray did.
We got to keep that off the record.
Off the record, okay. So erase that from the record, please. Erase that from the record.
I had to sign a lot of stuff, and they still owe me a little bit.
Okay. Okay.
Not get that in the press in any way.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, Ray moved all of the rocks here except the three biggest Stones glacial erratics, which had to be installed next to the road because we couldn't put a crane. That's the only place we could put a crane big enough to move the three glacial erratics. Ray also is responsible for sourcing most of the rocks. In other words, finding where the rocks were, where to get the rocks. And we traveled many times together. We traveled twice to the western part of the UP to get the iron ore rocks and the basalt and some of the dolomite. And we traveled to southeast Ontario, east of Algonquin Park, almost at the Ottawa River, to get the flashy reflective mica and the quartz, and also to Huntsville, Ontario, at the southwest corner of Algonquin Park, to get a lot of the other beautiful granites here. But I also flew alone to Wausau, Wisconsin, to get the orangey red at the southwest corner of the park, the various tall boulders there. But interestingly, the biggest source of rocks is Oakland County. Who would have known? Oakland County. And that's because 12,000 years ago, and more than that, the glaciers, the Ice Age glaciers, which are 1 to 2 miles thick, some of them stopped in northern Oakland County, melted, and they deposited their burden of rocks. And Railroad, it's American Aggregate's name of the company, Levy Company, who graciously gave me the rocks, which of course they couldn't use anyways. These rocks were deposited when the glaciers melted, and the 53-ton rock, the 35-ton rock, the 30-ton rock, and all the bigger rocks at the north end of the project, they came from Ray Road. Now, what is a glacial erratic? A glacial erratic is a stone that was moved by glaciers. They were inside the glaciers, like raisins in a pudding, and as the glaciers crept along, they traveled from 300 to 400 miles north of here. All the glacial erratics come from somewhere north of Lake Superior, and they were dumped here when the glaciers melted. Also, there's a split curve of boulders at the northeast corner. That split S curve, you really can't make that out here, but the split curve of boulders, those are all glacial erratics from the Ray Road place. Now, the iron ore boulders. Now, the single tallest rock, which you can see peeking out, it's about 12 or 13 feet high. The single tallest rock is flanked by iron ore. And that iron, which came from the western UP, and the iron ore has a very interesting origin. Believe it or not, all that iron ore and just about every iron ore mine on the planet was formed a little over 1 billion years ago from minerals deposited, in water, suspended in water. Like 1.5 billion years ago, there were no iron ore deposits on the face of the earth, or very few. They were as iron floating in the oceans. And about 1.2 billion years ago, algae and something called cyanotic bacteria began releasing oxygen. That oxygen bonded with the iron, and that iron, over tens of millions of years, I don't know how long it took, settled to the bottom of the ocean, and over tens of million years compacted into the extremely dense iron ore you see there. And when you look at those rocks close up, you'll see red bands. I mean, that's iron. And that's iron in an extremely rich concentration. And that's how those iron ore rocks got there. And the pillars are in themselves leftovers, the overburden from mining operations in the western UP. As you probably know, during World War II and the Korean War, and after that, huge amounts of iron ore were taken out of the western Upper Peninsula, and during the wars were made into tanks and ships. And John Zawiski of Cranbrook, who was an enthusiastic partner in this, called it the ore that won the war. That iron ore came from those deposits that won the war. Now, one last thing about other rocks is the Wausau rocks, the orange, reddish orange, the southwest corner. Those were not glacial erratics. They were just blasted out of the Canadian Shield. The Canadian Shield is a vast expanse of granite that covers a lot of eastern Canada and northern Ontario and northern Wisconsin and the northernmost part of the western peninsula. And those rocks were simply blasted out of the Canadian Shield deposits in Wausau, Wisconsin, and I selected a number of rocks which I thought looked good, and that's where they are. Now, why did I do this? People have asked, why did I do this? First of all, it's philanthropy. It's the joy of giving pleasure to other people. It gives me pleasure to think that over the next 50 years, 100 years, 200 years, God knows, perhaps 1 million people or more will get pleasure from these rocks. That's the first reason I did it, the joy of philanthropy, the joy of giving. And then it's also the love for rocks and the love for nature. I love rocks. Anybody who's been to my house knows that I love rocks. There's a lot of rocks there. And I love nature, and this combines the both. There's also a educational purpose. I hope that with the QR codes and the signage, and we need some more signage, we need a bird's eye view sign, a site plan, people will learn something about the geology and be inspired about the geology and will wonder at the transport of these rocks by glaciers, and they will wonder at how iron ore formed. And then lastly, it's love for gardens. I hope that this gathering of rocks forms in some sense a garden, maybe a new type of garden, but that's my love for gardens is another reason. So that about wraps it up. Thank you all for coming, and bring your grandchildren.
Thank you.
It is my pleasure now to introduce our council president, Ari Mandelbaum, and while he's coming up, I also want to introduce our city council president pro tem, Nancy Banks, and councilwoman Yolanda Haynes. Ari? Oh, and I'm sorry, I didn't see our city treasurer, Irv Lauenberg.
And your state senator.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I don't want to take too much time, but everything that's been said, I know I've been here with my children, and some friends come from out of town. They're very impressed with the Boulder Garden, with Carpenter Lake in general. I know that the restrooms, the shelter, the drinking fountain will be greatly used. And we do want to thank Marshall for his contribution. It sounds like we're still not done with adding more rocks and more signage and interpretive signs. So it's not just a piece of art, as the mayor would say. It's not just rocks, but it's going to be something educational as well. So when you can combine everything together, that's really what makes this a really special place to come and visit and learn. So Marshall, thank you again very much, and thank you all for being here.
And next, our city administrator, Fred Zorn.
Yes, yes. Thank you. We're excited to be here today. I just want to piggyback on the concept of educational. This morning's Free Press, Neil Rubin's column article about a woman who works for the state doing work on zebra mussels. And the value of a field trip is the story. She took a field trip out in Pennsylvania where she grew up, had a different level of interaction. Here's her career, and here's a person in a couple master's degrees in biology doing great things to help the quality of our water and deal with an invasive species. Nice feel-good story. As this was being built, a lot of rocks coming in, and I'm thinking, man, that's these things were huge. The trucks bringing in, the placement, the dynamics happening, and people, what goes where, and very challenging for my team, my Parks and Rec, the risk managers, our public works people came in, city council, planning commission, getting this thing through site approval. There were times you thought, gosh, this isn't going to happen. And it's when you push that outer envelope, and thought I pulled up a quote that I read to my kids all the time. It's a Steve Jobs quote. And I just want to read it because it's so critical. Where else in southeastern Michigan can you have this type of experience? You can go down to Monroe, the first entry point into the state, and they have little examples or little markers of the different stones that were native to the Great Lakes region. And it's quick, we all want to get through Kentucky and Ohio, and I'm not stopping till I'm in Michigan. You walk that, but the level of interaction is different. Here you can climb, you can touch, and so that's the opportunity there. But here's the quote I wanted to us bring up. Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers. And believe me, we thought, oh man, this Marshall guy, God bless him. I sat in conversations with the mayor's office and thinking, I don't know which guy's crazier. But this is the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules. And we know that. We learned that. I mean, the planning zoning piece were challenges. They have no respect for the status quo. Well, we don't change things unless we push things. I mean, I've found myself the last few months using the example of marijuana. We were putting people in jails. Now, it's legal in controlled environments. And that media, what we accept, and our civil rights is just another example of status quo changing and pushing things, changing those rules. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them because they change things. And this was a very different type of park. You'd easily pass. We got lots of beautiful sites in southeastern Michigan. There's not another site that has this. It's classic market segmentation, a new draw to a community. They push the human race forward, and while some may see them as crazy ones, we see geniuses. Well, there is, in the end, you now see the genius, you see the vision, because people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. And we're doing this here in Southfield. What we're doing in the housing arena, rebuilding our infrastructure, saying we're not going to let this first ring suburban community go. We're standing our ground. We're doing this with the arts. So I want to speak about my Parks and Rec department. The last few years, as we've come out of COVID, we've realized the value of our parks. And we've always had a place for them, but if you look at the investment the city council has made, Sims Park, Miller's Park, this park, millions of dollars, Barbic Park, what we're doing with the 9 Mile Trail, these different recreation opportunities that we're creating for people. I'm telling you, we're in tune where the market is going, where the world is going. When I'm at conferences in housing and economic development, these are the things that make neighborhoods great, that make communities the preferred place to live. Our location gives us a superior footing. We have 26 million square feet of office space. We're going to continue to be a leader in southeastern Michigan and a leader in this state, and we'll continue to lead the country. Terry Fields has done an outstanding job in getting us points, Steve, Griffin, Sanj, finance people, Stephanie in PRing this, to my public works department, getting a water line to this. I think I saw Justin Beck here, the team at OHM, Rhett Grondevelt and Zach, and just so many people work to make this happen, and I'm grateful that we have the resources as a community. We're not done yet, folks. Our parks will continue to do more. Late last week, we're putting this event together, and tree falls and does a number on our deck, and very quickly staff deals with the immediate. We rope it off, we get the tree down. We've already had the structural engineers out to do the evaluation. We're going to get it repaired. And yesterday, 6 o'clock, my staff is telling me, oh yeah, we want to do this one thing to make this more ADA accessible. So again, that creative process and thought, how can we make that better? Excited about being here. And then I get the pleasure of now introducing our state senator, Senator Jeremy Moss, former councilman, and then our current state rep, Jason Hoskins, who without them, the money that they helped secure for this project, this probably wouldn't be possible to have this shelter. And this will be that education venue where that class takes that field trip. And who knows, maybe the next person who ends up working for the state or the state of Wisconsin, and we're doing something neat with these rock formations, or where our new technology is. And if we're sending man to the moon and men and women to the bottom depths of the ocean to find out what minerals and that may exist, this may be the catalyst for some kid who finds that new technology. And, we see what's happening with lithium batteries and that. There may be some brilliant mind that can do something that moves humankind to the next level. They got to recreate here, learn, and maybe it raises everything for all of us. So no, I'll stop here, and to our state senator, Jeremy Moss, and state rep, a debt of gratitude for making this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred and Ken and everybody. If you would have told me that my legacy was going to be the Jeremy Moss bathrooms at Carpenter Lake, but I'm getting ahead of myself, and Ken missed a bit of the history here because I hope I don't get in trouble for relitigating this and reliving this, and you're laughing because you both know what I'm going to talk about. My very first city council meeting when I was elected in 2011 had to do with Carpenter Lake. There were plans at the time to really create what was an intrusive and overburdensome facility here that some people championed as the vision for an educational opportunity. But we had a debate on council, and including members of the community who came out and told us, let Carpenter Lake be Carpenter Lake. And Ken and I, when we were on council, voted against those plans, but they passed through the council, and it was Mayor Brenda Lawrence at the time who exerted a very rare veto on those plans. And it left an open question of, okay, we're having a discussion on how to enhance Carpenter Lake, how to bring more people here, how to make it more exciting, but stay true to the fact that it is a nature preserve, how to preserve that. And so when Ken called me years later, I guess 2016, and said, I met this guy named Marshall Lasser, I said, buckle up. Because I've known Marshall most of my life. His daughter's my closest friend. And it's true. I mean, Marshall is a visionary and took all of us on this journey with him. But it really kind of was this perfect marriage between Ken and Marshall being unrelenting in trying to make this work. So here we are all these years later, and what a journey we've come from, kind of just a benign facility to really what stays true to the character of what should be a preserve, and is also a very exciting opportunity to draw in people here to Carpenter Lake. And I work with state legislators from all across the state, from the UP to northern Michigan, even to northern Oakland County. And when they talk about lakes, I say we have a lake in Southfield, and we're damn proud of it too. So all the while, there was an opportunity for us as the state to have skin in this game. And we saw a grant opportunity in one of our state budgets in the previous cycle to bring enhancements to the facilities here, to complement the work that's across the parking lot with needed amenities like this shelter that we're under on an 85-degree day, water fountains, bathrooms, enhancements to the parking lot, so to make it a more welcoming place for Southfielders and everybody else in the community to utilize. So we were very, very pleased a couple of years ago, and now see the fruits of our labor, to have delivered a $600,000 state grant to Southfield, so we can enjoy the shade here today as we talk about this project. So, it's kind of a bookend journey from that first council meeting dealing with Carpenter Lake, now here to see the completion of our work is very gratifying. And I want to lend time to my colleague, State Representative Jason Hoskins, who at the time was my legislative director and who worked all the back channels to achieve that $600,000 grant. So, now he's our state representative, but I'm sure it's just as gratifying for him to having filled out that very first paperwork to now enjoy where we're here today. So Jason, have at it.
All right, thank you, and good morning, everybody. All right, and I'm gonna try to be fast because it is a little warm out here today. But yes, so when I was, I think about where we've come with this project, and I know for me, part of the reason why this is so important and I'm so excited about this is because during COVID, I used to come here probably, a few times a week, because this really was, and as has kind of been mentioned, this really was kind of a refuge for many people when they wanted to do something during that period when they want to find a safe space where they can get fresh air, get exercise, and really be out and about. And so for me, it was so important to see that the amount of use, and it was so great to see the amount of use that this space got. And I will kind of echo what the mayor said. This is definitely not a hidden gem because there's a lot of use for this park. And so when I was both serving in Senator Moss's office as well as serving on the Southfield City Council, we just so happened to be during that time we were going through the process of looking at our master plan. And it had a number of the city's priorities and the costs. And so when I saw that there was a request for funding for Carpenter Lake, I immediately took that to Senator Moss and said, hey, as we're going through the budget process, can we make this one of our asks at the state level? And of course, Senator Moss said, absolutely. And I'm so grateful that now we can see the fruits of that grant. We can see that the bathrooms are going to be vitally important, as well as the water fountains, as well as all the educational things that we'll have here. Because again, this is something that is used so much. And as we did see during COVID, parks are a valuable part of our community. And so I am grateful for what we've been able to do here. And I'm so hopeful that this nature preserve will be used for years and years and years to come. So thank you all so much for being here and enjoying.
And now our Parks and Rec Director, Terry Fields. And I know we have one or two board members here.
We do.
Do you introduce them?
Sure. I'm not known to be quick, but I will be. We definitely have a board member here from our Parks and Recreation Board, Simon Rivers. Where are you? Simon. Our other board members that couldn't be here are Kathleen McNellis, Rosemary, Shauna, and who am I forgetting? Michaela, and then Brandon Gray. Thank you. You know what? We've had a lot of thank yous. This is all about collaboration. And it starts at the top. The folks that allow us to collaborate and have these conversations and push the envelope. Nothing worth doing, I believe your friend Case told me, nothing worth doing comes without frustration, right? And our levels were high at times, right? But there's a picture of Marshall and I out there where we're smiling at each other. So there's some proof there. So again, thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Jason, Fred, but our council and our mayor that allow us to and see the future and allow us to do these projects. Nothing is easy, and we try and think of everything, but it's so good to have a group of folks that actually stand back a bit, look at it from different perspectives, and make sure that we have crossed our T's and dotted our I's. And so for that, we're grateful. Plus the money. It is a team effort, and everyone standing here is part of this. But I really do want to be able to call out some folks. Kara Parks from OHM. I saw her from OHM, and then Rhett Gronevelt from OHM. Thank you. If you follow my hand straight back, is WCI, Josh and Tom. They're our contractors that built it. I always, when I have an opportunity to sing the praises of this incredible Parks and Recreation team, who works a lot behind the scenes. They're awesome. From our parks, Steve Griffith back there, who spent every single day here. Vicky Boyle, who's our park supervisor. And I'm telling you, what about Stephanie coming up here and giving a speech?
Yeah.
She set the tone. Stephanie, Holly, Angie, Kathy, Kayam, Snejana, Angelica's here. Who am I missing? I know I'm missing somebody. Who? Shavella, where are you? She's little. And then internally as well, we can't do what we do unless we've got other departments that are backing us up. For those of you who don't know, unfortunately, we had a bit of a fire here during construction. And our fire department, Chief Johnny Menifee, Deputy Messia is with us. Fire inspectors were here. Our law of the land, Justin Beck, is here and was instrumental in making some of these challenges less challenging. So I won't keep you any longer. It is warm, and we've got refreshments. So make sure you get in state. Angelica, did I say your name? Yes. Okay, you were grinning at me funny. You're almost like, way to go. But again, thank you to our council, our leadership, Fred. He was talking about the deck here that went through some damage. Of course, our deputy city administrator, John Macrina, helped us and took the lead with working with MMRMA and getting our insurance to cover it. The addition that Fred was talking about, and I'm just going to put it out there and hope we can do it, is wheelchair accessibility for fishing. So we'll have 2 outlets going out over the water. Whenever something happens to one of our parks, we don't just fix it, we look at how we can make it better. So thank you for being here. Thank you to our leadership and all the folks behind the scene. And really, we're doing it for our residents, right? And the residents to come. So enjoy the afternoon and enjoy the park. Thank you, Marshall.
Also with us today is our Community Relations Director, Mike Mannion, our Deputy City Treasurer, Allison Bettis, City Attorney, where's Dawn?
Dawn in the back.
Dawn's back there.
She's in the shadows, okay. And Abdul, yeah.
Shelley Freeman.
Oh, and our Business Development Director. All right. Again, it is a team effort. Marshall is a fan of Prosecco. So Marshall has provided the refreshments. But if you don't want to do Prosecco at 11:45, there is sparkling grape juice. All right. Thank you again, Marshall.
Thank you.